Hey, my little angels, come on in, come in. Can't sleep? I know. Why don't you guys come in? Come on. I can tuck you all in. Okay, so why don't you take the meditation cushions and pull them out into mats? That's it. Lay down. That's it. I have a pile of pillows and cushions in the corner. Help yourselves to those. And the hammocks, we have not one, not two, not three, but four. And 3 of you will fit comfortably, but 4 if you're friendly angels. And we have the big comfy couch, and you can probably fit 3 of you on that laying down. Okay. You need a hardback chair? Of course, I have a couple. And I have the rocking chair, and that will fit not 1 but 2, not 1 but 2 of you. And you pull the feet up, that's it. You go in a reclining. Good job, guys. Okay. Is everyone comfortable? Does anyone need a blanket? I have lots of throws and blankets. Some I knitted myself. Yep, and then I can just tuck you in. Tuck you in. Good. And we don't need any beverages tonight, of course, because we're going to sleep. However, how about we do some breathing exercises? Okay. Hi, I haven't seen you here before. We have new little angels, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to our reading session. I'm so glad you're here. Please have a seat. Be welcomed. You can give it a thumbs up. You could share it. Sharing is caring. And if you silently watch, that's okay. I'm happy you're here. And I appreciate you giving me your time. I don't take that lightly. But if you're comfortable leaving comments, please do. We love the comments on this channel. I love to watch you guys interact with each other. I adore interacting with you. I love knowing what you think and what you feel, your ideas, your suggestions, your questions, all of it. I'm interested. And the reason is because when we do that, we connect. And when we connect, how do you do that? Connect. We take this great big world and go and make it smaller. And that's a very good thing, you guys, especially today. It's a good thing. And please hit that subscribe button below. I'd really appreciate it. And hello to all my returning little angels. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love you guys so much, and I'm so grateful to you for everything you do and for always coming back and being so kind and so supportive. And I've heard from a few people lately, how come I'm not doing any more reading to you? I was having some trouble with my eyes, guys. But it's all good now. It's okay. But I thought, let's get back into it. Especially now that we have the fairy lights. It looks so pretty, doesn't it? Like the nighttime sky. I know. And I have my new ring light. For those that don't know, I got an 18-inch ring light. And it changes colors. I'm so excited. I have the blue on right now. I have my book light here. Okay, and for those that haven't been here before, I pick books like this, and today we're doing Chicken Soup for the Soul, Angels Among Us, 101 Inspirational Stories of Miracles, Faith, and Answered Prayers. It is by Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, and Amy Newmark. I love the Chicken Soup books, guys. I love reading them to you. And I never choose the story ahead of time. I have great faith that when I open the book, I will land on the story that somebody, maybe you, or you, or you, or you, or you, or me, needs to hear tonight. I believe that. And I've heard from a lot of you who tell me that. So, and I read these books because they have no illustrations. So you can just close your eyes and drift off as I read to you. Okay. Now you can have a nightlight on. You can have a sleep mask on. You can have dim light, you can have fairy lights, you can have battery operated, you can have LED lights. You cannot have lit candles. It's my number one rule. No lit candles when you're trying to fall asleep or rest. It's too dangerous and you are too important to me. Thank you. Okay, so make yourselves comfortable. Everyone is comfortable. Let's do our box breathing first. Pardon? You don't know what box breathing is? Anybody else? You don't remember? Okay. Our brain is our body's command central. So we need to send the brain a message to send the rest of our body a message to slow down, to relax, to rest. And we're going to do that by doing box breathing. And we do this whenever we want to rest or relax or recharge or soothe ourselves after a particularly moment, or when we just need a moment to ourselves, or when everyone's driving us crazy. We're going to take a minute for ourselves. We're allowed to do that. You are entitled to do that. And how we're going to do that is we're going to breathe in through our nose for a count of 4. We're going to gently hold it. None of this. No, just gently hold it for a count of 4. And then we're going to release through pursed lips, almost like you're sighing, for a slow count of 4. If you can only do 1 or 2, that's okay. I know you're doing the very best you can, and I'm proud of you. Okay. Shall we do one together? One set? Okay. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out. Good job. I love that sighing. Next one, breathe in and gently hold it and sigh it out. Great job. You have improved so much. Last one together. Breathe in, gently hold it and out. Great job, you guys. I'm proud of you. Okay, so like I said, I am just gonna open our book. These are large print editions, and I got them from Amazon because my bookstore didn't have the large print. I am going to attach my handy dandy reading light that's upside down. And I'm just going to open the book. Oh, read Angels Among Us, Angelic Visitors. Entertaining an angel unaware. I think we can all. Okay. I'm going to try to get through 2 tonight. We're going to see how it goes. Okay. And like I said, there we go. You guys can just relax. Close your eyes. I'm going to put on my specs and we'll get into this book. Okay. It always starts with a quotation, and today's is actually author unknown. Angels can fly directly into the heart of the matter. Will this blizzard ever end? I asked myself as the gigantic snowflakes cascaded down, making visibility difficult even at midday. The weather was not helping my grief and my depression, which seemed to be deepening with my confinement in the house. My family lived in a 2-story condominium unit on Loring Air Force Base in Limestone, Maine. My father had died earlier that winter. It had been the Monday before Thanksgiving, around 5 p.m. I listened as laughter and excited squeals drifted into the kitchen as I prepared our dinner. My husband Jim was playing with our children, Patrick and Christy, in the living room. The phone rang. It was my brother-in-law, Harry. He insisted on speaking with Jim. Jim, pale and shaken, told me, "Your father fell dead at the state fish hatchery while mending a fishing net this afternoon at work." He was laughing and talking with a coworker when his heart just failed him. The funeral is on Friday, and that will give us a chance to get there in time. I didn't have time to process the news and grieve. We had to eat, pack, and leave as quickly as possible. However, I kept asking God, why did we have to leave Little Rock, AFB, Arkansas, 20 miles, from my hometown in August and move here, 2 miles from the Canadian border? Why couldn't we have stayed there? Why were we denied these last few months of his life? Why was he taken during Thanksgiving week? Since all the planes had been grounded due to the blizzard, we had to pack the car and drive more than 600 miles to Jim's parents' home in New York City. Then we rested for a few hours before continuing the trip. It was hazardous traveling in the blizzard, combined with the darkness of night. We still had more than 1,200 miles to travel before we would arrive in my hometown. We only stopped to eat and rest for a few hours, allowing Jim to sleep. My heart was broken, and I wouldn't allow myself to cry when the children were awake. I didn't want them more upset than they already were. The trip was very hard on them. On Thanksgiving Day, when we stopped to eat, I struggled in my grief and resentment of my dad's death as I saw families celebrating the holiday. I still couldn't accept or understand why God would take my dad. I had received a letter from my mother several days prior to his death, telling me how well they were and that Daddy was planning to retire in February. They wanted to come and visit us in late spring. I was angry at God, and I resisted the fact that his presence, love, and comfort surrounded me. I kept asking him, why did you allow this to happen? Here we were, weeks later, in the middle of another blizzard, and I was still dealing with my grief and depression. The Christmas holidays hadn't helped me. I couldn't sleep at night, and when I did, I would wake up crying. I felt the walls pressing in on me. I went through my daily routine robotically. The children and I were upstairs. They were napping, and I was trying to rest when the doorbell rang. I went downstairs. I went downstairs in disbelief that someone would be visiting in this weather. The temperature was 40 degrees below zero. I opened the door, and a pleasant, friendly lady asked if she could come in. As she entered, she introduced herself and thanked me for inviting her into my home. You can come in, but I'm really not feeling up to entertaining. I just lost my dad a couple months ago. Oh, I am so sorry. I do understand what your experience, because I also had a great difficulty in accepting my father's death, she said with immense compassion. These words opened the door for me to ask her, how long did it take before you started sleeping at night? I wake up crying and then I can't go back to sleep. I'm very tired. Also, I'm so angry that God took him just 3.5 months after we were transferred from the base close to my hometown. She spoke in a quiet, comforting tone. Be patient. Give yourself time to heal. Don't stop yourself from crying. Let the tears fall until you no longer have any. Crying is a release of your feelings. And don't be afraid to tell God that you're angry because your father died. He wants him to tell you everything that you're feeling. And then he can begin the healing process in your heart. When you hang on to anger, it turns into bitterness and turns you away from God. In time, you will find your waking in the night crying will decrease and eventually stop. Always thank God for his comfort, understanding, forgiveness, and love. Also, always ask him for strength to sustain you as you begin each day. She stayed until we had discussed every feeling and question that I had. When she got up to leave, she gave me a little hug and said, "You're going to be fine." And then she left. After a couple of days, I wanted to call and thank her for her visit and let her know how much she had helped me. I couldn't find her name in the phone book. I asked all my neighbors if she had stopped at their homes. No one knew, and no one had talked to her. When I couldn't find a trace of her, I recalled what my mother taught my siblings and me. She always welcomed and offered food and water to strangers. She told us we should never turn away because we were told in Hebrews 13:2, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it." Had I entertained an angel unaware? I can't say for certain, but I do know and believe that God sent her to minister to me in my time of grief, depression, and anger. Minnie Norton Brown. And guys, I can testify to that as well. When my dad died, I was very close to my dad, and he was only 63 when he passed. And I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And I would take the bus to work and from work sometimes, depending what Uncle Angel's schedule was. And this one day I trudged out, waiting at the bus stop I waited at just about every morning. And there was a lady there. And she said, "How are you?" And I said, "Fine, thank you," because she was a stranger. "How are you?" And she said, "Oh, I'm down today." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." And inside I'm like, why are you telling me this? Except I've always had people do that. I think it's my hair or my face or something. It makes people feel very comfortable to talk. And she said that she had lost her husband years ago, but that she was really missing him today. And I started to cry. And I said, "I just lost my dad, a month ago. And I'm just bereft. I don't know what to do." And we talked about grief and healing on the bus all the way to the subway station. And then we parted ways, and I never even knew her name. I've never saw her before. I've never seen her again. And I know without a doubt she was sent to me to help me. So I believe that. Do you think we have time for one more? I think so too. Let's do one more, because I see a few of you are still a little bit awake. This one is called My Snow Angel. I just flipped the book open, guys. And it's funny, I always land on a page that starts a story. Now, the quotation in here is from Voltaire. And it says, "It is not known precisely where angels dwell, whether in the air or void or on the planets. It has not been God's pleasure that we should be informed of their abode." Voltaire. Okay. A warm, sunny day in early November, especially in the Sierras, was a nice surprise. One look at the cloudless blue sky was all it took to convince me to drive 20 miles into the valley to do some early Christmas shopping. Both these stories about Christmas. My husband was content to stay home and rake up the last of the fallen leaves. I called out to him before I got in the car, "Call me if you think of anything you want me to bring home." He smiled and waved as I drove away. Temperatures in the valley are between 8 and 10 degrees higher than in the foothills where we live, so I enjoyed the warmth and the sunshine as I walked from store to store. It wasn't until around sunset when I realized I had been shopping for most of the day. I was surprised that I hadn't gotten a call from my husband, as he usually thought of something he wanted in town when I was gone. I rummaged through my purse for my cell phone, only to discover it wasn't there. Not all that surprising, as it wasn't the first time it had happened to me. "It's probably on the car seat or on the floor," I said to myself as I turned into the parking lot. I put the bags in the trunk and got in the car, but the cell phone was nowhere to be seen. After a frantic search, I found it under the seat and sighed with relief, not only to find the cell phone, but also to discover the source of the clunking sound every time I turned the corner on the drive into the valley. My husband will have a good laugh about that, I thought, as I dialed our home phone number. I didn't get a chance to tell him. I heard the panic in my husband's voice when he answered the phone. I have been trying to call you. It started snowing up here half an hour ago, he shouted into the phone. But the storm wasn't due in until this weekend, I said. I know, but there was a sudden drop in temperature and it switched from fall to winter just like that, he said. Another surprise from Mother Nature. That's how things happen in the Sierras. And that's why I keep a box of emergency supplies in the trunk, and I carry chains from fall through the end of spring. Well, I guess I'll just have to stop and put the chains on when I get up there so I can make it home, I sighed. My husband coughed nervously and cleared his throat. I forgot to put the chains back in the trunk when I vacuumed the car out yesterday. I saw them in the garage when I finished raking. I resisted the urge to scream. I checked my watch. The 2 local auto parts stores were closed by now. How much snow is on the ground, I asked. Only an inch or 2. I think you can make it home okay if you leave now, drive slowly, and follow the tire tracks in the road when you get up to the snow. I hung up and slammed the phone into my purse. I berated myself for not checking the trunk after he cleaned out the car. It was a constant battle with him to put things back where he found them. Usually it was his stuff, but this time I was the victim of his carelessness. I had to let a scream out to release my anger, rather than carry it home with me. Big tufts of white swirled in front of the car headlights when I reached the 1,200-foot level. I kept the car in low gear and crept slowly toward the 2,600-foot elevation where we lived. I started talking to myself and to God. Help me get home became my prayer and my mantra as I repeated it every few minutes. My biggest challenge would be to get over the reservoir bridge and then up the hill on the other side. The only way to make it would be to keep moving steadily and hope the cars and trucks had displaced enough snow so that my tires could get some traction. I continued my mantra. The snow was falling harder when I reached the reservoir bridge, and I blinked back tears. A truck was driving across the bridge ahead of me. My hopes soared. Those big tires would make a good path through the snow and help my car tires get enough traction to make it up the hill. The truck slowed as I got closer and then stopped. I slowed the car, but had to stop a few feet from the truck. I watched helplessly as the driver got out and swept snow off the trunk hood and windshield and then got back in and drove off. My car had lost precious momentum. The path from the truck tires had helped until I reached the end of the bridge, and then I started up the hill. The car started to swerve. I turned the wheel to correct each swerve. The tires started spinning and the car started to slide back down the hill toward the slope side of the reservoir. I was on a direct path into the water. God, please, I need your help right now, I yelled. The car stopped. I pressed my head against the steering wheel and said, thank you. Someone was rapping on my window. I rolled it down to see a young man with curly dark hair and sparkling blue eyes. He smiled and said, you are never going to make it up this hill without chains. I'll push your car to the side of the road and you can walk up the hill, he said. The car seemed to float effortlessly to the side of the road. The young man came to the open window and nodded. Remember to take those Christmas gifts out of the trunk when you leave, he said. How did he know there were Christmas gifts in the trunk, I wondered. I grabbed my purse and jumped out of the car so I could thank him for his help. I looked around. No one was there. There were no cars or trucks on the road. There were no footprints. There was only a pristine layer of snow growing deeper by the minute. I reached for my cell phone to call my husband and then remembered that the reception at this level was poor even in the good weather. I slipped on rubber boots and a hooded sweatshirt that I always kept under the spare tire. I grabbed the shopping bags and started walking toward the gas station at the top of the hill. When I saw the dim light over the door, I knew it was closed. My plan was to call my husband, and now that was over with. I had to keep walking till I found a house where I could use the phone. Just as I turned off the main road, a white truck pulled up next to me. The driver got out and came towards me. "Would you like a ride home?" he asked. I nodded, and he opened the door. I smiled and started giving him directions. He said, "I know where you live." I looked at him more closely to see if I recognized him, and I noticed some dark curly hair sticking out from under his knit hat. "Are you the young man who pushed my car off the road up the hill?" He nodded and smiled. The truck seemed to glide over the road, and I was surprised when it pulled into the driveway of our house in just a matter of minutes. It takes about 10 minutes to cover that distance just in nice weather. I thanked him after he helped me out of the truck, and I turned to wave. The truck was gone. My husband was startled to see me come in the front door instead of through the garage. I told him about my trip home from the valley. When I finished, he scrunched up his face and looked at me. I didn't hear a truck pull in the driveway. After a short discussion, he challenged me to show him the tire tracks. We walked into the driveway. There were no tire tracks, only a deep, smooth white blanket of snow, except where my footprints started and led to the stairs of the house. Since that experience, the term snow angel has a very special meaning for me. L.A. Kennedy. I love those kind of stories, guys. I really do. They make me very happy. So I hope all of you are ready to go to sleep now. I see a lot of your eyes are closed. And please, guys, always remember that I love you, I value you, I honor you, and I pray for you, and I am so very, very glad that each and every one of you was born.